And it always likes to swap the screens for the presentation. Okay. So yes, we are going into the risk assessments for organizations related to AI, top tips and best practices with regards to, sorry, go ahead.
And I was going to say one more thing. Do you mind if people jump in with questions during the presentation?
Not at all. Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, if you want to ask a question, just please jump in and keep it a little interactive. I think that's always a little more interesting.
Yes, definitely. And there are actually times in the presentation when I'll be asking for input from everyone. So that is perfect. So my background, I started out military. I was actually a counterintelligence special agent for the Army. The start of my career, performed human intelligence collection, base protection, force protection analysis, secure compartmented information facility protection analysis, which is where you house top secret and above classified information. Moved on from that eventually to information systems and applying a lot of the same skills to information systems with cybersecurity. Became a consultant for PricewaterhouseCoopers, working in Washington, D.C., primarily focused on Department of Defense. Spent a number of years as a lead programmer for the Defense Finance Accounting Service, developing a massive piece of software to detect fraud, misuse, and abuse in their accounting systems, and then moved on to auditing for the Pentagon, primarily serving the Marine Corps, and doing cybersecurity auditing there, and then from there on to forensics, and primarily serving the FDIC during the 2009 financial crisis. We were one of the two teams that was going in to collect the cyber evidence of misdeeds for the forensic accountants. And, then on to penetration testing, and after that decided to stay put for a while, so I became a CISO for a company based in Utah here called Circe Dynix. And I've been their CISO for more than a dozen years, and it's so stable that I'm able to do the consulting on the side, and I've done that for a number of years. So that's what enables me to help other organizations, and really enjoy doing that. So as far as this presentation goes, AI is actually one of my passions. I've followed it from the early days of its conception in our age, and have close friends who are AI engineers. I've actually written books where AI was a key part of the storyline. So this is in my wheelhouse, and I look forward to helping you to identify both how to help protect yourself, your organization, and also safely incorporate AI, because it is not going away, and it's actually a very useful piece of technology. In fact, I've heard subject matter experts referring to it in the same terms as gas or electricity, transportation, that it's going to become a key part of our resources that we want to use, and that are available to the masses. So definitely important to try to bring it into a less risky state for our organizations. So moving on here, slide 2. So objectives here, I've touched on it a bit, but do want to help you to make sure that you have the ability to identify and assess and mitigate your AI-related risks as much as possible. As I mentioned, My organization can definitely help in the identifying and assessing and providing recommendations for mitigation. That's one of our specialties. So and that can be useful. You might have in-house knowledge that you can leverage as well to some or all of the extent necessary for your organization, which is also very good. But we'll talk some about frameworks and tools and governance models that you can apply as well, so that you will have a good strategy that you can apply going forward, whether you involve third parties for assessments or not. So here's a polling question for you that we're just going to do verbally here. So at this point, the use of AI can be very nebulous and intimidating, and you may or may not have started to make use of it for your organization. So for participants, I'll ask anyone who at this point has actually started working on their own AI models to speak up and let it be known that you're that deep into the AI integration. Or you can use chat and post it there as well.
Are you asking if we're building our own large language models? Is that what you're asking?
Yep. Yeah. So primarily the work these days is with the large language models and developing your own models for data analysis is the most common usage there, where you can use a data set that you input, and then you start massaging the logic for the processing within the AI model. So if not anyone, then...
Hey, Ben, can you clarify that? Because probably none of us or any of our companies have the resources to build a large language model that would be comparable to even the free models or open source models that are out there. So why would any of us build our own large language model? Or you mean build our own applications around some open source LLM?
More on the latter. So typically the approach is to use the open source or commercially available models and take advantage of the work that has been done. And then you start using those to assess or analyze data that you're inputting into it, and then creating your prompts, or sometimes directly manipulating the models themselves to your benefit.
This is Jared Jensen. We're actually in the process of looking at stuff like that to analyze our own log files and data sets that we have. So yeah, we're looking at it. We haven't fully executed on it yet, but we're in the process.
At AFS, we've toyed with some Copilot agents using Microsoft's Copilot. So we've just done some little proof of concepts and just kind of exploring what we can and can't do.
Okay.
Yeah, and at PFS we are full on in production with using OpenAI through Microsoft.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
another
right.
application at AFS, we're testing some Claude Sonnet model as well.
Okay. So that helps me to customize what I'm going to say to the audience. What I'll do, there are different applications of AI. Some organizations get all the benefit that they need just from having LLMs available to query for general type information. Someone I think was going to speak up as well. I thought I heard someone who was had something that they might want to say, but in any case, so what we'll talk through today is I will try to tailor it so that it addresses both the potential use of things like Copilot, LLMs that are totally managed by a third party, and leveraging those to increase your efficiency, help you to draft documents, and do those sorts of productivity type tasks with the LLMs, to also the organizations that are taking open source AI models or paid versions, platforms, and using them as their enhanced machine learning data analysis type engines, and might have internal engineers or people who are learning to become internal AI engineers in that regard. So we'll address both of those general types of use cases. So why does risk analysis matter? It's the age-old security question. Security in its best form is all about risk assessment and risk reduction, not necessarily security just for security's sake. So when you're looking at the risks to which you're exposed as an organization, of course, it's impossible to eliminate all risk. To do that, you basically just have to not exist. So not really an option if you want to do business or provide services in NGOs or other organizations besides for-profit businesses. But it's important to identify risks to which you're exposed so that you can put into place the proper risk mitigations. And the four main risk mitigations that from an academic standpoint are used are avoidance, where you do try to stop whatever activity it is that is exposing you to the risk. You can also transfer it, potentially getting cyber liability insurance, or hiring a third party to perform services. You can also mitigate it through adding security tools or changing configurations or whatever the patches might be applied. And then the last option is to just accept the risk. And most organizations cannot do that, unfortunately, and really thrive unless for organizations that don't have very high sensitivity data that they're processing and storing, you might be able to set a risk tolerance threshold where you are saying, okay, we will accept this level of risk. You can tolerate that level of risk. And most organizations, even if they're not processing and storing something like classified data or payment card information for the financial processing firms, or protected health information, or other more sensitive type information, social security numbers, whatever the case may be, usually you can't still get away with tolerating or accepting above a low threshold, a low baseline of risk, which means, say you get a vulnerability scan report and it lists all these findings, and some of those are rated as low or informational. That means that you can basically just ignore those and keep them on your radar, but you're not going to do anything about them. So depending on the data that you're processing and storing, what regulations you're exposed to, that is what you keep in mind when you're talking about risk and exposure, risk reduction. And of course, regulatory pressure is something that you have to bear in mind, where especially with the data that you're processing and storing, it exposes you to certain penalties if you don't adhere to standards and exhibit a justifiable approach to your security. And that encompasses AI these days as well. AI, as we'll talk through here in the session, we're seeing more and more regulations and standards coming out, ways to address this potentially very nebulous form of productivity or business or other organization enhancement type solution. So, and then of course your reputation always comes into play. So, defining AI risk, I could spend a whole session talking about all of the potential risks that use of AI can expose you to. There are unintentional risks where AI models unfortunately have a very strong tendency to hallucinate, where they come up with versions of reality that don't actually exist based on the data that they've been fed. And that is something that the designers of AI models and frameworks are trying to address. We haven't quite reached the point where it's not a major issue yet, but there's that. You have potential malicious use of AI, especially where you have a common platform, a common model that many people are using. There's always the risk that someone might inject types of prompts or the input to the AI models that would result in something malicious happening, whether it be corruption of your data and the results, the responses from the AI models, or output that should not be provided to users. Very difficult to keep track of all those things as well. Where in the past you had web applications or other software that was using the data on the back end that is tightly controlled by database analysts and admins, the developers, and they're keeping track of the data that's being provided. It's usually something that can be controlled in batch form and not necessarily real-time continuous analysis like we're seeing with AI models, where you want the users to be able to query and get results continuously throughout each day. It's difficult to keep a human in the loop and always make sure that it's not providing output that you don't want it to. And then there are other things that you can have happen with bias and dealing with some manipulation of the models just because of the limit on data that you're providing. It can draw conclusions that don't necessarily represent reality as well. And it would have its own preferences, so to speak, about what types of answers are being provided. And then, of course, trying to use something like your own model that you are hosting in-house or on a cloud-based solution. You have all the operational risks, same as you would with hosting other software. And we already mentioned you'll potentially be exposed to legal and compliance regulations and executive orders and whatever the case may be that expose you to risks from those regulators coming and calling on your organization and inspecting what you're doing and making sure that it does not breach the laws and regulations that are applicable. So we've talked through some of the general risk categories. As far as the data risks go, that is far and away the most important aspect of controlling your AI from a risk standpoint. Data governance becomes much more impactful than it traditionally has been. So your classification, policies and implementation, the privacy concerns and data lineage concerns. Data lineage refers to where the data was truly sourced and where it has gone since then. Sometimes you can have extensive metadata tracking depending on your data lineage tracking solutions. And many of those are being provided by data loss prevention companies who have entered into this space of data lineage tracking, which then can help you to control where the data can go, even if it enters into an artificial intelligence processing model. So, and then if you do get into engineering AI, then you can have difficulties with the AI itself, dealing with data drift and the other aspects of model management that we've touched on. And of course, the deployment risks play into the operational side. And then, of course, you have your human resources where you can have people stop developing or maintaining the talents that you hired them for. And they could be straying as well from what you intended for uses of AI that's being provided. And again, it's very difficult to provide that oversight continuously for all those ways that people can use the AI. So, like most cybersecurity components of your operations, you do need to make sure that executive buy-in, executive investment is there, and provide the executive team with the cost benefit for AI use and the security aspects of AI use, and your security program and your data science and engineering teams. If you do start developing those in-house, they will of course be part of this ecosystem internally of the risk management related to AI. You may have a general counsel, compliance officer, definitely want them involved, and then you might have more down in the weeds risk management and cybersecurity teams, including in-house security event analysis capabilities and compliance focused cybersecurity individuals. So definitely want to make sure that all the right stakeholders are involved if you're going to properly mitigate AI risks. Okay, so another polling question. This one will be quick. We can just use the chat and do a raise of hands sort of thing, where the question is, how many participants at this point feel that they have a the right stakeholders involved in risk management for AI in your organization. Give you just a minute to do that.
Just one of us, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's not surprising, honestly.
We're getting there. We're
whole...
trying.
Yeah.
Does that count?
Yes, yes. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this presentation. So trying to give people a leg up in that regard. Okay, so moving on to the frameworks for AI risk analysis. There have been some helpful frameworks that the different organizations have come out with. It has taken them a while because AI has developed in such an interesting way with its primary focus initially being on replacing search engines almost. But then organizations realizing the potential for its use within their organizations and, like I said, productivity and so on. So NIST has published their RMF, the Risk Management Framework. If you're familiar with NIST publications, then that will be an easy one for you to digest. But if you're more ISO 27001 is the most common exposure for the International Organization for Standardization in the plain English, American English terms. So they've also created their own standard document for doing this type of analysis. OEDC, they're another internationally focused organization. They've created some principles. It's helpful. It includes some risk analysis components of that within that. And then, of course, you might start developing your own internal documentation around this. So bearing all that in mind, the first step that you want to take in this is to catalog your models in use. So this can include Copilot, other business or licensable type AI models, the free for use AI models, open source AI models, or for purchase and self-hosting AI models. The ecosystem is massive and it's becoming even more massive every day, which is one of the reasons why you need to understand what you're using before you can properly address the risks. Also, you need to know who is using it, what use cases, trying to document all of those, at least at a high level, so that you can identify the mitigations properly. If you don't know why people are using the AI solutions that they are using, then you can potentially be hit with massive pushback. For one thing, because you could be directly attacking the profitability of your organization, potentially, depending on how it's been implemented. And those data sources, like I mentioned, data governance has become the critical component of assessing your risk when it comes to AI. So once you have all of those different models listed out, then you can classify them at risk level and business impact level. And we'll talk about the ways to do that. So the risk identification. You want to use threat modeling typically. It's the same approach as for other cybersecurity analyses. You would take the use cases, AI models, and business needs data that's being processed and stored. in those solutions and start threat modeling in the MITRE approach. Mindset is a very good one to take, where you start putting on your malicious hat, looking at how this might be abused, and how it could accidentally cause issues with your organization. So I tried to identify the different threat models for your organization so that you can get the full picture of what you're looking at as far as threats that can exist. So across the whole life cycle of your AI solutions, you want to make sure that you're not ignoring the different stages of AI deployment, sunsetting of use of different AI solutions. All of that needs to be considered for proper risk identification. And you only have so much time in the day, so oftentimes it's best to not get down into the lowest tiers of threat modeling, where you are working out each individual malicious prompt that could be sent in, or every type of indirect output manipulation, where someone, for example, might be poisoning the PDFs that you're ingesting into your AI processing. There are ways where you can embed in PDF short little, very small type, so that it's not recognizable to the human eye, or even invisible in some cases, text that then will change your the data that set that is being assessed by the AI, and thereby poison your analysis output that is being provided to your users. There are all kinds of different malicious ideas and use or pilots that are being created. A lot of them were highlighted in recent cyber security / gray hat, black hat, malicious type individuals, and presenting their new ways that they've come up with for abusing AI. So moving on, there are different approaches for risk assessment in general. Once you've done all this threat modeling, you've identified the categories of risk, the different models that are in use. Then when it comes to actually putting numbers, if you're doing the quantitative type analysis on your risk levels, or qualitative, depending on what approach makes the most sense for you and you're most comfortable with, you can then apply something like the NIST special publication 800-30 type approach, or one from another standard, trying to identify your impact and probability or likelihood. The academic way to identify risk is to combine your impact and probability for a final risk score, or risk rating, for more of the qualitative type approach. I tend to lean towards the risk scoring models myself, with the heat maps, where you have low, medium, high, critical type risks, and risk ownership assignment, so that you have a clear cut way to say these risks belong to these individuals with these use cases, for reducing them to an acceptable level. Once again, talking about your risk tolerance threshold. So risk mitigation, then, once you've identified your risks and you have that heat map, ideally, you may have different use cases for different risk rating approaches, but there should be something actionable that comes out of it. When you have that in hand, then it's time to look at how you're going to address the risks, how you're going to reduce them. I mentioned the four key ways to do that. There are many new solutions that are being made available in the ecosystem of cybersecurity tools. There are ways to do your model validation and testing. You can do it manually and take the time to make sure that you are performing many different assessments of how the models are processing and inputs, and then providing outputs, and doing your validation, making sure that hallucination is not becoming such an issue that it makes the use of AI models that you're trying to use untenable. Same goes for bias detection. Really, so explainability tools, your SHAP and LIME, which really should be LIMAE. They lowercased the A with the M. I believe it was language input model agnostic explainability. So there are solution creators out there. Many times these are more of the open source type solutions that you can use, where you are using more automation to do this validation, making sure that the input and output is explained in human understandable terms, and it provides more automation for that process. And then when you are looking at AI as a solution, then it can be difficult to put on your standard cybersecurity hat when approaching it. But if those solutions do have access control and other more common cybersecurity manageable aspects, then you can just apply the same approaches that have been recommended for so many years with regards to technology use, where you have access control lists that you're managing. You have onboarding, offboarding processes formalized that apply to users for AI as well. When you have people who are performing the back-end type tuning and manipulation of models or generation of models, then they should have background checks. You should have tiers of governance as well, where the individuals who are hands-on with the AI models are not the ones who are making ethical type decisions or security type decisions. There should be a governance of the administration and development components that is outside of that organization. So compliance officers and having oversight type roles for those teams is very important. Going beyond that, there are also more newly developed different ways that you can increase your security with regards to AI use, including, I mentioned platforms. There are actually AI hosting platforms that have been developed that use foundational framework type control over the models, where they make it so that the ability to manipulate them and the ability for the models themselves to drift or start hallucinating, all these aspects are actually being tracked. There are some very keen minds that have come up with ways to do this. So you can start hosting your models within those platforms that provide more control at the foundational level. There are also solution providers that have developed ways to start identifying risks in AI models. Some very, like I mentioned, smart individuals who have been working with AI for years recognized this need, and so they started developing their own vulnerability assessment tools, very similar to the ones that apply to other types of software that can generate CVEs, the common vulnerability and exposures scores for these vulnerabilities in software that traditionally has been a MITRE owned repository that is used by many vulnerability scanning tools for a common language with regards to what risks exist in software, so that you can know about them. Hopefully there will be patches that can be applied. So this is also being developed. These companies that are developing the vulnerability management solutions are working together with regulators hand in hand to develop this, much like the CVE program. So it will give you both, as you're doing development type work with regards to AI, tuning the models, developing the engine's usefulness. It will tell you when risks start cropping up in your models when you're applying it already. And then it will also identify production type risks. If someone injects malicious input into the model, it'll catch those types of things. And they have some good numbers about the effectiveness of those types of solutions. So something to consider. Definitely early stages, and we'll see more and more competitors entering into that market as we go along as well. So I just wanted to mention those things that can be very helpful when it comes to mitigating your risk. So going on through more of the standard processes for risk mitigation, there typically should be risk committees. I mentioned having tiers of governance to make sure that your risks are being managed. Compliance officers, CISOs, oftentimes have ownership of both cybersecurity and risk governance, privacy. It can all be under CISO type hats. And I do serve as CISO for many organizations to address these types of things, in addition to the others that fall under cybersecurity program governance. But when you have different tiers of individuals involved in risk management, then you can use committee type approaches, but at least you want to clearly identify the roles and responsibilities that people have. I mentioned with regards to your risk analysis, making sure that you have risk owners assigned as you identify risks, so that they know that they're responsible for implementing mitigations. that is critical. You need to communicate with those individuals, and ideally you'll have some at least a process for regular reporting on mitigations as you go along. You can also implement solutions, governance, risk, and compliance type tools. They're becoming more adaptable, and you can create your own risks in many of them with risk owners assigned, and do your tracking that way. And that's where the continuous monitoring and reporting comes in. Audit trails, of course, you do want to make sure that you have immutable logs of changes in the systems. Again, there are solutions that are becoming more and more available where you can do the same sort of security information event management from a cybersecurity standpoint to continuously monitor the input, output, and internal analysis, the mental state of these AIs. Okay, so I mentioned that there are frameworks. So also with risk management, you can take advantage of something like ISO 31000, where it is dealing with your risk management as a whole, but with an enterprise type focus. Even if you're not an enterprise, it can be very useful to implement that type of structure for your risk management. It clearly lays out how different subcomponents of an organization can be brought under the same umbrella. And you might have, even if you're not an enterprise, you might have many different types of teams in your organization. And how do you make sure that all of them are communicating properly and addressing the risks in a unified way? So when you're also using risk registers, even if you're using something like a NIST Special Publication 800-30 type risk management approach, you should have risk registers, something to continuously track your risks. You can close those out as they're sufficiently addressed, but oftentimes you want to keep some records of the risks, and that is where the risk registers are very useful. You can just move risks off into closed state on another tab, or if you're using a GRC, keeping those in an addressed state, but still there for visibility. And I mentioned cross-functional collaboration as a key component of unified risk management across your organization. Very important. So just going to briefly touch on these. All of the items that are on the screen here are most easily addressed through single or a handful of solutions, where you're able to take advantage of the model analysis and the state analysis that is able to be performed by these solutions. But of course, there are some open source and other solutions where you can do the work yourself in a more hands-on way. So we will actually, for the sake of time, I'm just going to jump on to regulatory landscape here. As you've probably seen, there is not a shortage of interest by regulators to start applying regulations to AI use. In the EU, as expected, they have developed their own risk-based classification. In the US, NIST is, of course, more of a suggestion provider, but the FTC is starting to get involved when it comes to guidance, and sometimes for some entities, we're looking at compliance requirements. And then it's, of course, going across the whole world. All the different major players are developing their own standards. If you do international business, then that will be yet another thing that you have to track as you're dealing with the international data transfers or even leadership across different regions. Okay, so we've talked as well about many of the organizational structure type approaches that are important to use, and then also technical approaches and their impact. However, you need to make sure that you are definitely taking each of those components of risk management seriously. You need to make sure that you have all the right players at the table when you're talking about risk identification and addressing of risk. And like I mentioned, not identifying every one of the models and general use cases, at least. It will leave you blind, which is never good when you're trying to properly address all the risks for your organization. Also, like you mentioned, it's not just a technical issue. AI is definitely being used more and more by every different type of team in the organization. And there is a large component of the AI benefit that comes from the ideas of the individuals using the AI and their creativity and developing always more new use cases for AI use in the organization. So the same as you would with any aspect of a security management and security program, it's always best to create a human firewall, so to speak. In cybersecurity lingo, the human firewall is critical because you can implement all kinds of great tools, but all it takes is one careless user or even a malicious insider to turn all that on its head and bypass all kinds of controls that you put in place. So creating a culture of mindfulness about these things, especially when it comes to privacy and effectiveness of your organization. Making sure that people understand that they are part of the solution for the organization to continue to exist and to thrive in this AI age. So, and you may want to incentivize the identification of risks, the time that's spent to address risks. All of those are worth considering because people tend to perform best when they're provided with carrots as opposed to sticks for behavioral change. Okay, so I mentioned at the beginning that our goal is to provide you with a roadmap. And so these are your different phases that we've talked through, laid out. You want to perform proper discovery, then do your risk analysis, and create your governance structure. If you already have a fully functioning cybersecurity program, then that's relatively easy to just incorporate into the existing structure. Tooling and automation, I mentioned there are free tools. There are some semi-manual ways to go about addressing risks. Automation is always recommended, especially if you're dealing with a heavy workload of processing, and it does include the technical component. So, and then anytime that you implement any type of program, then it's best to perform continuous improvement for that program, usually through stakeholder meetings, talking through ideas that people have, their insights for how to improve the risk management of AI. Okay, so we do have some time. Well, actually, I think we just hit the top of the hour. I'm good to go over myself. So up to you, Bettina, if we want to have some time for Q&A comments.
I think anyone that can stay on a few minutes, certainly we're open to doing that. And I think we didn't really hear much about your company. Is this a service that your company provides, WebCheck?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the key reasons we're brought in to organizations is to apply our expertise with the different standards and with organizations and tools to reduce the risks, help organizations to identify their risks, and provide recommendations for reducing those risks. So those types of analyses, those are things that we are continuously engaged in. I usually have several, that I do on a regular basis. And like I mentioned, the AI components, we're on, staying on top of that, and so we can come into organizations.
It's going to be a challenge. I mean, there's so much risk if you think about it. So this is very interesting. There's a few more people still on the group left over. It looks like everybody had to drop at 4. So do you guys have any questions? Anything you want to ask Ben?
So one of the questions that I put in the chat was, do you it looks like you do this for the LLMs. Do you have a similar process for people using AI coding tools where I know recently something was injecting malicious code because they were using an AI engine that just picked it up and nobody really considered that attack vector. Do you have something similar on the AI coding front?
Yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned, I come from a development background myself, and our practitioners are all well versed in the development workflows and the associated security risks. So with AI in particular, that's something that we've focused on as it's been developing. And so we're able to come in and put on the development workflow hats and assess the development processes, inputs, outputs, all the different data flows, because at the end of the day, that's what drives your risk is the data flows. And so we tend to be able to help organizations think of the things that they hadn't thought about before when it comes to their risks, because we've been there, and we make this a key focus for our organization.
So along those lines, I've been hearing more and more about organizations leveraging AI to actually do their pen tests, but they're looking for specific targets that are more in the post-quantum cryptography space, the harvest and decrypt, the log files that aren't at the same level of encryption that are more vulnerable nowadays. Is that something you're seeing gain momentum, or is it still kind of on the emerging tech side?
I'd say it's definitely on the emerging tech side. There have been so many different attempts so far to develop something that is robust enough to handle all of that. And I've actually, we've had in-house instances that those organizations have given us to vet their solutions, and unfortunately they've fallen on their faces.
Sure.
So haven't had anything so far that I would trust. But like you mentioned, it is an area of keen interest for many organizations that are primarily focused on the development side of security tools. So I fully expect to see very trustworthy tools being made available in the near future along the lines of your Cyrisma, old school Tenable, Nessus, threat identification, but across the board when it comes to AI analysis. And like I mentioned, one of the up and coming, very interesting players there is the Robust Intelligence company, stemmed off of a research team from a university. The professor actually became the CEO for the company, and they have impressed me the most with what they've come up with.
And you said that was Robust Intelligence?
Robust Intelligence, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate your listening, and thank you much so, Ben, for taking the time. It was very informative. Are you able to share the slides with us, Ben?
Yeah, definitely. I can send those over.
Yeah, we should send them over. That's perfect. Okay. Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks so much.
You too.